Welcome back to another episode of the Scale Smart podcast. I'm your host, Jacob, and I'm also the founder of NetScale Growth. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Zachary Wright, who is the CEO and founder of Grapevine. Zachary, thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Great. So, Zachary, tell me a little bit more about yourself, your experience, and what do you guys do at Grapevine?
Yeah, so whenever I talk about myself, I typically say I'm a strategy and operations person at heart. And so what that really means is my goal in any position that I've ever been in is to make the team's job easier. And so you can look at that at how to access information, what type of processes or workflows need to happen. And that actually ties directly into what we're doing at Grapevine. Just a quick story is at the last company that I was working at full time, we brought in consultants that were probably about 250K to come in and teach our enterprise sellers how to sell enterprise. And the way that they did that, it was very in depth. It was tons of information. I mean, we're talking about 500-page PowerPoints, no joke. And that was just one part of it. And at the time I was strategy staff executive, so I wasn't in the RevOps position yet. And we had a leadership shift. And so the CEO at the time asked my manager to come over and be the CRO or chief revenue officer. And he said, I'll do it as long as I get to take Zach with me and be the director of RevOps or sales ops, however you want to word it. Once I learned about this, I was like, okay, we have to simplify this. And the reason I tell this story is because I ended up building our go-to-market playbook. And the way that I did that was I took all the information that was around the organization and started feeding it into what I called the RSM or regional sales manager guideline to winning. And it was basically everything that the sales team needed to know, from what is the company, why do we exist, how do we exist, and how do we speak to customers, sales process. The list goes on and on. But the point is that I was centralizing and consolidating the information that the team needed to be successful. And as an outcome of that, we actually took our ramp time of regional sales managers from 6 months to 3 months. And we also increased our revenue by 390% in 12 months. So I say all that to say, what does Grapevine do? We help you centralize your company's most important information so your employees don't have to search 13 plus applications. They go to one spot to be able to find what they need when they need it.
Amazing. Well, 390% you say growth in 12 months. That's pretty impressive. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I think it was a part of, I don't want to give myself too much credit, obviously, that everybody's involved, but I think it was a part of the reason that we were able to get acquired later that year.
So, Zach, as a founder of Grapevine Software, right, what have been the most significant challenges you've faced in scaling a virtuous office platform?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the biggest things is that I'm actually not a technical founder. I'm a non-technical founder. And so what I had to do to start with was explore a partnership with a development company and find someone that I could trust. And so it actually was a 1.5 year process where I kept speaking to the founder of the company that we use now, and they've been with us since day one. But it was literally talking to all these different companies and then finding the one that fit what we were able to do. But then in addition to that, so that's kind of like table stakes, like non-technical founder, obviously it's going to be a little bit tricky to build a technical company. The other part is after we got through that hiccup or challenge, it then became, okay, we have assumptions and we have this lofty idea to build what we call a virtual office platform or a virtual HQ. And what that meant to us is that, yeah, we're going to take a few problems and we're going to try to solve them with one platform. And so a lot of people will call that horizontal SaaS versus vertical, horizontal being something like a ClickUp, a Notion, a Code. Like it's these things where they can do multiple things and they're not necessarily pinpoint solutions like a CRM or a customer relationship management tool. And so it's a little bit harder to get people to understand this is your tool and this is how we can use it. So one of the challenges was taking that assumption, speaking to people where they understand that, yes, we're kind of like Slack. Yes, we're kind of like Notion. Yes, we're kind of like SharePoint. Yes, we're kind of like Google Drive, but we're all in one system. So it was just nailing down, how do we talk about the product with overwhelming the customer? And the way that we did that was actually recent. I took every single conversation that I had as a salesperson, founder led sales, whatever you want to say, and threw it into ChatGPT. And I was like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Tell me why we aren't growing as fast as I want to. And it was like this big epiphany because we ended up getting the voice of the customer insights. And so that challenge that we had of, okay, let's not talk about the big picture vision because nobody cares about your big picture vision. I mean, they might care about it in the sense of like, okay, that's cool. But what they actually care about is you as the founder, and two, what can your platform do for us today? And so we can't paint this like beautiful picture without showing them what they can do today. And so that's what we did. We got the voice of the customer. We started reaching out to the right ICP versus like we were reaching out to founders before, and founders are visionary. So they're great idea generators, but they're not the actual doers in most cases. Like let's say founders and CEOs. And so who we actually needed to reach out to were operational leaders like myself. I built Grapevine to solve my own problem. And so now what we've been starting to do is we don't have product market fit yet, but I think that we're on the path to get product market messaging. And so whenever I talk about what we're solving and how we do it, the people's eyes are starting to light up more. So the challenge was obviously not being technical, finding the right development partner, and then two, taking these assumptions and this idea and making it a reality, but also making sure that we're connecting with the right people so they understand the problem and they find a need for what we're offering.
And you mentioned about ChatGPT there, and obviously AI, and it kind of taking every industry by storm, right? With the rapid advancement of AI, how are you guys integrating that at Grapevine to enhance maybe user experience or maybe streamline some virtual collaborations?
Yeah, so right now, and I always hesitate to say this, but right now we don't actually have AI in our platform, but we do have it on the roadmap. And I'll tell you the reason why we started to go this route, even as the market is going ballistic on AI. Every single day, there's a new AI startup. The reason is because we wanted to build the foundation, right? Our overall goal is to make work better for everyone, to make work more flexible, inclusive, and fulfilling. And so whenever it comes to that, it's not AI that's actually going to solve that if there's not structure provided to it, right? And so the way that I always talk about AI is if you're using AI as your differentiator, you've already lost, because over time, AI is just going to be table stakes. If you don't have AI in your product, most people aren't going to use it. And that's why it's on our roadmap. And we're going to get to it in Q2 this quarter, but also we're going to try to get our first V1 version of it in Q3. Where we're starting with it is AI search, because the way that we've set up our system is you have this company hub where instead of going through all the different channels to see the updates, the announcements, events, social media posts, all that kind of stuff, we give you one specific page that you can look at. It's kind of like your company bulletin board. Then we have the info hub, which is like Google Drive, but on steroids, because it's not just limited to documents or files. You can upload media, you can upload links. So if you have like a specific board in a tool that you use, you can bring it in there. And then we have Spaces. And so Spaces is kind of like your Notion style wiki board, but you can have individual spaces. So instead of just having one Notion with tons of sidebar tabs, you can actually create a space for revenue, space for marketing, space for operations, so on and so forth. And so now that we have this foundation, we also have our search sidebar that helps you look through announcements, people, files. Now I'm blanking. A couple of other things. Get Grapevine and you can figure out the rest. So now what we're going to do is, now that we have that structure built, we have the information, and information to us could be anything from docs, files, links, spaces, and then posts that are coming from different people. Now we have that structure. We throw AI on top of that. We're not actually just saying, okay, you can search everything in your organization, but you're going to find things that are from like 2010 that's no longer relevant. You're actually going to be able to trust the retrieval that you receive. So the way that we're thinking about it is, one, AI search is going to be a big thing. So companies out there right now are like Glean is a big one that a lot of people are talking about, Rovo and Atlassian. But if you look at the user feedback and reviews, they end up not trusting what they're receiving. And so they still have to go and reach out. So I could use Glean, and this is no disrespect to them. This is just the organization's data being not structured or updated as often, right? And so I could type in there and say, hey, I need to search our PTO policy. But then for me to be confident with that, I'm still going to go reach out to either my manager or HR person and say, hey, is this the most up-to-date PTO policy? We want to make it where you can search, find it confidently, where you don't actually have to reach out to someone else. Because each time that you reach out to someone else, you're interrupting their deep flow or just their day. And that takes time away from productivity. And so the other parts that we're thinking about with AI, just to continue on this, since we're on it, we have a people aspect in ours. It's not like an HRIS tool, but we think that work, people, and employee experience should all be together under one roof instead of separate. And so our people, we have employee profiles that are pretty in depth. So you can see the person's skills, like whether they have Salesforce, HubSpot, Lattice, Bamboo HR, like you name the tool, you can put it in there. But then we also have hobbies and interest, and then we have previous experience. So it's kind of like Facebook meets LinkedIn in that sense. But then in our Connect feature, that's where you can actually search for certain things. And so that's very manual right now. So if I say Jacob has Salesforce experience, I'm going to go to Connect. I'm going to search for it. I find you. We have a chat function called Figgy Chat. So I'm going to hit on that icon and I'm going to say, hey, Jacob, I need help on this Salesforce report. Can you help me? Or another example is like, I'm about to have a sales call with HubSpot. Jacob has HubSpot experience. Hey, Jacob, can you jump on this call with me? Or can we jump on an instant meet, which is what we call our kind of like huddle section. And you and I discuss, so I'm more prepared for the sales call. That's very manual right now. What can we do to make sure if Jacob and Zach has Salesforce skills and there's a space that they're working on together about improving Salesforce hygiene, maybe those two should connect, you know? And so AI would be the trigger to find the trends or the commonalities and say, Zach and Jacob should connect. And then maybe the AI uses Figgy Chat to automatically connect you guys and say, AI thinks you should connect. And then and it could be for hobbies and all that kind of stuff too. So those are two key areas. I'll give one last one and then I'll stop talking. But the last one is, how can you take the spaces and all the information in Grapevine and have the generative part of AI like ChatGPT, but say, okay, Jacob is about to onboard next week, and I need to build him a personalized onboard approach for the next 3 weeks, right? Then using the data in Grapevine, I could say, okay, here's the job description that Jacob's coming on board for. Here's the spaces that I think should be included or pulled from to create his personalized onboarding experience. And then here are the specific people that he should connect with for these specific things, right? And so I'm just putting that in there, and then it's going to spit out a specific space that you get to have personalized onboarding. So those are a couple of things that we're thinking about that'll come later this year. Definitely AI search, and then possibly the connection between the profiles and Connect. And then later down the road, we'll get to that last example I gave.
Great. And it ties into the last question that I've got, Zachary, is what are some of the goals you guys have got for the company over the next 12 months or so?
Yeah, so I've told the team that this is our improvements stage or phase. And so what we're really doing right now is we're focused on taking the foundation of what we built and just improving it slightly, where users have a better experience, where value for the company is more prevalent. And obviously, like we talked about, we're going to bring in AI to mainly stay competitive, but also think of these new ways that we can apply it into Grapevine that makes working easier. To kind of come full circle here is, again, as an operator at heart, I want to make sure that work is better for everyone. And I want to make sure that we can, through Grapevine, make their jobs easier. And so our specific roadmap is AI search. We are bringing in group chat. Right now, we don't have that. It's going to come out actually next week, so very soon. And that's going to allow people to have those specific group chats, whether it's like on a project or department or whatever the case is. So that's just like those small improvements that we're talking about that we're bringing into the mix. And then our goal is to close 40 plus paying customers this year. And so that's our North Star in a very simplified response.
Well, Zachary, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insights about AI and where you see it kind of taking its swing. And it's great to hear about the company, the success that you've already had in your story. So thank you for coming on and sharing that today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Zachary.